up. I bobbed and weaved and hugged the wall of the living room with a grimace. But as I hit the first step, I decided to use the empty space to get a layout of the room and maybe see Edward, or Alice. So I lifted my head and began scouring the crowd. Emmett was standing on the couch with a very bored Rosalie at his side. He was chugging a large bottle of something likely alcoholic, while a small group that had gathered was chanting for him to chug. I grimaced again. I looked around some more, hoping to spot that bronze mop of hair. I spotted Elise's little black head first, hopping over to a large table at the far end of the room. She had heels so high she was nearly the same height as the people she was passing. I followed her with my gaze until eventually she met up with Jasper. He had on grubby jeans and a shirt. He never looked like he cared much about his appearance. Alice is sure to ruin that. He smiled at her big and wide, offering her a red plastic cup, which she took indifferently. I wanted to snort at her, trying to look like she didn't come to this party just to see him. I shook my soaked, hooded head and moved my gaze over the crowd some more. Not too far from Jasper, I found the mop of hair I had been looking for. Edward was sitting in a chair close to the table, leaning it back with his feet, and teetering with a drink in one hand and the other in his jacket pocket. He was watching the Jasper/Alice exchange with a smirk. I smiled automatically. He was getting some amusement out of it. I bit my lip and stood there, holding onto the banister, wishing I could be with him, or hoping Edward would meet my gaze. He never did. Instead, another girl came into my view. Strawberry blonde hair, teased and curled, winding down all her cleavage. And she flopped onto his lap, making the chair he was leaning back and hit the floor with a thump I could almost hear from where I was standing across the room. I clenched down on the banister and tried to force my eyes away, but I couldn't. I just stood there watching, while my vision went red. Her big stupid blonde hair was blocking Edward's face, but I could see her running her ugly pale fingers through his hair. My hair. And that was it. I turned my head and ran up the staircase, tripping on the last step, but not feeling it all. I kept running through the second story, trying to keep the tears back. I darted up the next set of stairs onto the third floor, panting and still dripping wet. I fumbled through my hoodie pocket for the key to Edward's room, and forced it into the lock roughly, flinging the door open and slamming it behind me. I balled my fists into my eyes and let out a frustrated growl, keeping them there for a few minutes, while I stood and seethed. I took my fists off my eyes and looked around the room. It looked just the same as always. Nothing out of place. Except for me. I flung my bag off and threw it on the black leather sofa, hitting the cushion with yet another disgusting splat. After my initial anger died down, I felt another emotion. It wasn't bitterness. It was defeat. The strawberry blonde was exactly something Edward should go for. She was beautiful, sexy, confident. My complete opposite. I sunk into the sofa and leaned my head back, closing my eyes, just waiting for Edward to come so I could take what I could get, and trying with all my might not to imagine what he was giving her.
Edward's point of view. Fucking Emmett, and his stupid fucking parties. I sat beside the rather large table of alcohol and leaned back. All I wanted to do was get fucked up for one night. That's it. I had never had the chance to really get drunk. Always having to stay awake, always too afraid of drinking too much to fully enjoy it. Of course I still couldn't enjoy it, because people were fucking everywhere. I wanted to be in my room, just fucking relaxed. But Brandon was coming tonight, and Jazz needed a wingman. And unfortunately, I was that motherfucker. I glanced over at him from where I was sitting, and saw him staring intently at the entryway. I followed his gaze and took notice that Brandon had finally arrived. I smirked. She was looking slutty as ever. Black miniskirt and a red halter top. She looked like sin. She weaved her way through the crowd and finally made it to Jasper, taking a drink from his hands, looking bored. I smirked bigger and forced back a snicker. I watched the unfolding exchange in mild curiosity as Jazz coolly leaned back on the table. Just as I was about to make some snarky fucking comment to him for the sole purpose of seeing him embarrassed in front of Brandon, something large and heavy dropped into my lap and knocked my chair back to the floor. I blinked a few times, stunned, and focused on a very wide smile of a strawberry blonde sitting on my fucking lap. I darted my eyes down to her very obvious cleavage and stared a beat longer than was entirely necessary, enjoying the view. She brought her hand up and began running it through my hair.
"Hey there.
She purred, leaning in closer to me.
My name is Tanya."
She smiled seductively. Her words weren't slurred, but I could smell the Jaeger all over her breath. I put on my signature crooked smile, and watched as her eyes lit up. "Hello, Tanya. What a nice name," I said, sweetly, grabbing her hip. She smiled wider, and leaned into me even further. I let my smile fall and I glared at her. "Now, get the fuck off of me," I spat. I was expecting her face to fall, or maybe for her to run off crying, or some shit, but she just smiled wider and kept stroking my hair, which just pissed me off even more. Don't get me wrong, the Tanya bitch was sexy, fucking hardcore sexy. All cleavage and legs that I followed with my eyes down my thighs. But I knew what this girl wanted. They were all the same. Come to a party, looking for the nearest cute single guy to sink their teeth into after they were drunk enough to let their inhibitions wear off. I wasn't fucking interested. It probably would have been smart to just fuck her in some bathroom, or something. Maybe get a blowjob just to ease my tension a bit. Let the switch on for an hour, or two. But all I could smell, while I was sitting there with her in my lap, was cotton fucking candy. And it made me fucking nauseous. I roughly shoved her off my lap by her bony hip. Probably a little too fucking roughly, but I didn't give a shit. She stumbled off my lap glaring at me, and clicked away in her heels, without another word. I let out a frustrated sigh, and ran my fingers through my hair, hating that she even fucking touched it. I chanced to peek over towards where I last saw Jasper. And he was gone. And that shit pissed me off. I was thinking if Brandon was already here, my girl was upstairs waiting for me, and with that thought, I grabbed the nearest bottle of clear liquor, and 2 shot glasses, and made my way through the crowd to the staircase. There was only one person in this house I wanted to get drunk with. Anyone could see my girl was having a shitty day. She fell in bio today, and I had to fight with my every instinct not to get up and pick her up off that floor. I knew Bella had never gotten drunk